Welcome to a cold January day here at the quilt shop. I'm doing just a small YouTube video today to remind you of how to use a piece of equipment that we've been trying to use in our Harriet's Journey Block of the Month, our Jennifer Kiviarini Block of the Month for this year. We are on month number 7, and this month we are doing row F in our blocks, the 10 blocks in row F. And we are studying, thank you Magdalena. Magdalena is telling me to tell you guys that we are studying Amish quilting this month. And we are also studying Crazy Patch quilting, which got its start here in America at the Centennial Exposition in Fairmount Park, Philadelphia in 1876. At that time, the people from Japan came and actually taught our ladies how to do these fancy crazy patch stitches and began a whole era of crazy patch quilting in America. But today we're going to go and look specifically at creating triangle squares within the 10 blocks that you're doing this month, or in any other row that we happen to come up with. This is the Eleanor Burns double square up ruler that I think all of you purchased when you started this course, and some of you are still a little fuzzy in how to best use it, so that's what I'm doing today. What I'd like to do is show you how to create a half square triangle square and a quarter square triangle square using her, we call it the house ruler. And all the house ruler really is making it simple to do two procedures: to square up squares up to 6.5 inches, or to square up triangles up to 4.5 inches. So we've been calling it the house ruler. So what we're going to do, number F3 in your homework for this month, is the block Massachusetts. And if you look at it closely, you'll see that this one, and this one, the ones that form the diagonal here, are half square triangle squares. The ones that are north, south, east, and west are quarter square triangle squares. So I quickly drew some diagrams so that you'll be a little bit more familiar with how to easily cut these and make perfect 2.5 inch squares to go into a 6-inch 9 patch. Because when you're doing a 9 patch, you have 9 2-inch squares, and so we have to make these 2.5 inches in order to be able to make that perfect 6-inch block. So let's start with the half square triangle square. You're going to start out with 2 squares. Now they have to be a little bit larger than 2.5 because we're going to square them up. So the chart that I gave you earlier in the course told you when you're doing 2.5 to cut 3.25 inch squares. We're going to cut 1 focal and 1 background, and you're going to put right sides together. You're going to draw a pencil line on one diagonal, and then you're going to stitch your 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides of that diagonal, and then you're going to cut them apart. And then normally what we would have done is open this up, press it, and square it up to 2.5. Using Elle's house ruler makes it much more accurate because you're actually squaring it up while it's still in half, and so it turns out absolutely perfect. On the triangle square up, what we want to use is the 2.5 inch line, and we put it right on the stitching line for the seam that we made. Put the 2.5 inch line on the ruler, on the 2.5 inch stitching line. Make sure it's going straight up the middle, and what you have is your excess right here that you cut off with your rotary cutter, and what you're going to get is 2 perfect 2.5 inch squares when you open those up. That's the easy one, okay? Now quarter square is not hard, you just got to remember a couple of different things. First off, we're going to start with a dark square and a light square, but we're going to start with a 3 3/4 inch square. And again, this map is found on the chart that I gave you earlier this year, and this is the map that we use for 2.5 inch squares. So we're going to take the squares right sides together, but this time we're actually going to draw the pencil line on both diagonals, and then we're only going to stitch on one diagonal, 1/4 inch seam allowance. The other one does not get stitched. Then we're actually going to cut apart on both diagonals, and what you arrive at are all of your triangles all totally cut. We just have to sew them back together and then square them up to 2.5. So we're going to do this seam right here. Match these fellows so that you get alternating pairs. You're going to sew your 1/4 inch seam allowance across the bottom. Here's what it's going to look like when we open it up. But at this point, we still haven't squared up to 2.5. So enter the house ruler. We're going to put it on the 2.5 stitch line, the line on the ruler at 2.5. Now the other thing we have to be careful of this time is we have a vertical seam, and we want to make sure that that vertical seam is going straight up the middle of the triangle. And again, we will get the excess on both sides. When we've cut that, we open it up and we get a perfect 2.5 inch 1/4 square triangle. And you actually can do the little trick that we've done recently where we take away the bulk inside of this one by you just press this one open like that, and what happens is you get the dark going in this direction and the light going in that direction. But you have a perfect 2.5 inch square. And you will see that several times during the month on the squares that we're doing this month. And I hope that helps you. Stay warm and stay safe. Thank you.